ants are everywhere you go. It's local officials. And what's more important, some other program that they've started there recently, or Standing for Freedom? You can't look at anything that government's doing today, not even fighting the horrible drug war, which I will tell you is a farce. But as horrible as things are, there's nothing more important than standing for freedom. And this is still America, and we've got to have people stand for what's right, and that's what made America great in the first place. We can do it. It's still important. It's still alive, and I really applaud Sheriff Palmer, and there's a lot of other sheriffs doing similar things across the country.
And I just want to go back and reiterate, Palmer is involved in some sort of dispute with, rather not the United Nations, but the Forest Service, and they want to be involved in law enforcement activities in the county, and he is against that. And many listeners, viewers of this show know about the United Nations Biosphere Act, and so this may be related to that. So that's very good that he's involved in that. I want to ask you a question about jurisdiction. Here in Portland, Oregon, we have a big problem with the black helicopters. It's not really a conspiracy theory anymore. It's happening more and more, the point where it's really become traumatizing for a lot of the people watching this show that are in the city, and we're having a lot of aircraft fly over. And it's the point, Richard, where we can't identify it. What power does a sheriff have to stop maybe what's happening in aerospace?
Well, I would love to see him exercise some authority and get involved in that process, and I would venture to guess that to see his kind of authority would happen as a result of him standing and questioning what's going on. You will see right away a big change in what goes on when the sheriff gets involved. I've seen sheriffs simply ask the FDA, where did you get the authority to do that? Why are you doing this to my people? Why are you shutting their farm down? Why do you think that you can stop Amish farmers from selling raw milk and shutting and literally destroying farms and families and property? And when the sheriff gets involved in those types of things, it puts the FDA and other federal agencies on notice, and things start changing. I would venture to guess that if the sheriff in Portland got involved in that process, you would definitely see a change. I did it myself. I've seen what happens when you do, and we absolutely have to try.
All right, we're going to go ahead and play this short clip. This is track 3, and this pertains to a SWAT team shooting. A vet was shot several weeks ago, and I believe 70 bullets were fired into the home. His gun was still on the safety. So we'll watch this video and then talk about the speech you gave at the Oath Keepers meeting on Memorial Day.
A Tucson Marine is being laid to rest in Mexico today. Jose Huerena was shot and killed by SWAT officers 8 days ago as they served a drug search warrant. More than a week later, we have few answers to questions, including why SWAT busted into Huerena's neighbor's house as well. KGUN 9 on your side's Joel Waldman has continuing coverage.
A decorated Marine's family is mourning, preparing for Jose Huerena's funeral in Mexico. And as they do, the 26-year-old's loved ones want to know just one thing. What exactly happened inside the home he shares with his wife and 2 young children? Last Thursday, he was shot and killed by SWAT. Pima County Sheriff's Department investigators are curious about the same thing, even though they say they found some pertinent evidence. The Sheriff's Department hit 3 other homes that same morning.
We did find things that we were asking for in that, which may have been drug ledgers, narcotics, paraphernalia, any other connecting material between the residences. So those things were found in addition to a large sum of money.
That money was not found inside the Marine's home, leaving many questions. But what we do know for certain, bullets ricocheted around the Marine's home like pinballs and even beyond. These are bullet holes in the house behind Huerena's. Across the street the other way, more concern.
You have to get the whole structure, all the framing, the door. The door was damaged. The lock here shows a little bit of damage on there, but it's usable.
SWAT breached this neighbor's home, too. They were not home at the time.
When I came home, the whole house was searched. All the doors were open and searched through, so, yeah. It was like invasion of privacy, kind of.
SWAT say they were concerned about this hole in the Francos' home, worried someone else could have been wounded, so they did what they needed to get inside.
And as far as you know, does SWAT team have a search warrant executed in order to come into your home?
As far as I know, no.
We asked the Pima County Sheriff's Department about this
All right,
breach,
we'll come back
and
at
they
that.
released
So,
this statement.
Seems that the local affiliate down there, Richard, is engaging a lot of damage control. Just about everyone they interviewed was with the LAPD. What's the real story behind this?
Well, the real story is that the local SWAT team and SWAT teams across this country are being overutilized on calls that they shouldn't be going on in the first place. The SWAT team is the last resort, and any two deputies, two patrol officers could have handled this search warrant by themselves. But instead of sending a SWAT team into a neighborhood where 51 shots are unaccounted for, and neighbors' homes are being shot at through the Garena home, that has to be so alarming. And all the sheriff there is doing is continuously making excuses as to why the whole operation was proper. That's beyond insanity. I cannot believe that police officers and veteran police officers and sheriffs are making those kind of excuses and trying to justify the unjustifiable. A man was killed who served 2 tours in Iraq for our country, a Marine who served with honor. And they could have easily stopped him before he got home, stopped him with a patrol car out on the street and said, "Would you please stay right here? We're going to go serve a search warrant on your home. Is there anything we need to be aware of that's inside the home, Mr. Garena?" And then nobody gets hurt, and yet these guys wait till he gets home and then barge into the home. And if you look at the footage of the actual shooting, there's an officer shooting that jumps into the shooting just because he wanted to get involved. He didn't want to be left out of the dance. And it's the most absurd thing I've ever seen, totally violating training protocol and SWAT team procedures. He puts his pistol over the head of other officers and blindly shoots into the home with his semi-automatic pistol. Absolutely astonishing that these people are still trying in some way to justify this type of activity. It is ridiculous. They killed this man in front of his wife and son, and yes, he still had the safety on his rifle. And even the sheriff there tried to justify that, saying, "Oh, well, see, he obviously intended to shoot at our officers, but he just forgot to take the safety off." This is a trained Marine veteran who served 2 tours in Iraq, and you're trying to tell me that he forgot if the safety was on? No, that did not happen. And so that really shows an intent that he did not mean to shoot them, but he was just trying to check out who was at his door. He wasn't certain that it was the police, and he just had awakened from being asleep just an hour and a half. And it is absurd that we are still talking about this being okay in today's law enforcement.
Well, how
ridiculous can we get?
How many people do you think have woken up from this incident? I'm not very optimistic that very many have, but when you have a overly aggressive, militarized police department, you know, it's eventually going to backlash, and someone else in law enforcement or someone else that's been in the military is eventually going to get bit by the snake. I don't know. It's kind of a silly question, but how bad do you think it has to get before more officers and more men in the military start to see this come into manifestation, and the need for them to, say, join an organization like the Oath Keepers or take a closer look at the Constitution?
If this doesn't do it, then I don't know what will. And this is starting to happen all across the country. We're seeing these things happen more and more. And this is really the politics of SWAT teams. And so I really hope, when I was down there at the memorial for Garena, I pleaded with the law enforcement community and our nation's leaders, county and city leaders especially, sheriffs and chiefs of police and officers on the street. Please look at what we're doing. Look at the training. Look at what is really going on. And let's examine ourselves and do a little self-analysis to make sure that we're not part of the problem. and that we are first doing no harm. And we have got to understand that taking a man's life is a horrible thing to do. How can we allow something like that to happen? You know, there's one thing worse than having a cop being shot in this country. And the one thing worse is for a cop to shoot the wrong person or to shoot an innocent man. Mm-hmm. And I could never live with that. I don't know how these officers can live with this. And I'm not going to justify anything that Gareña might have been involved in. He might be a drug dealer. He might be a bad guy. I don't know. But we still have an obligation in America to give these people their constitutional rights and protect them, and to make sure he has his day in court. The funny thing of it is here, they found nothing inside the home that they justified the warrant with in the first place. It was a search warrant, not even an arrest warrant. It was a search warrant, and there wasn't one thing illegal found in that home.
And the thing is, when the SWAT team comes in like that, they don't know whether it's an arrest warrant or search warrant. All they know is, they don't even know if it's police, like you said, just men coming in the house with guns. And no, they didn't find anything, but they did find a screaming wife and child. And there's also the traumatic aspect of this, what it does to the family. And things like this do happen quite a bit in Portland. Now, I'm glad you're coming to Oregon. Hopefully one day we can have you up here in Portland. It looks like you are going all across the nation. You're very, very busy. What else is on your itinerary for other people that might be watching on YouTube?
Well, I'll be in Sacramento on Friday evening speaking at the Eagle Forum. And then Saturday I'll be in Kalispell. And then I come home for a little bit and head right back to Missouri, and I've got several other options going. My schedule is getting very tight, and has for the last couple of years. I think people really want to see the Tea Party movements are really getting involved with this state sovereignty issue, and they want to see my case because it's the most powerful 10th Amendment state sovereignty case in the history of our country, and I'm really proud to be part of that movement. Well,
Richard, I want to thank you very much for coming on short notice. And again, kudos to Palmer for inviting you to Oregon. Let's see, is there anything else you want to mention? You've written a couple books, haven't you?
Yeah, my books explain all of this, and they're available at my website if you just go to sheriffmac.com.
All right, thank you, Richard.
Thank you, too. Appreciate being on.
And safe travels. We're going to play a video real quick. This is from inflation.us. Inflation US is the name of the YouTube channel, and the man that does the channel is talking with a member of his community about how the economy has impacted her. And I think as things get worse, I think a lot of people think solely about themselves. They don't pause to think about what other people are going through in other cities. And it is a very important time for all of us to be very aware of these strange things taking place around us, how people react to it. But we have to work, I believe, at least for myself, to be in a place of encouragement for those people that are suffering. There's a lot of different roads one can go through in this life when they find themselves up against the wall economically. People choose to do things in those circumstances that they wouldn't normally do, or that they wouldn't perhaps tell their parents about. And we do live in a world where when the economy collapses, certain occupations open up that certain people walk into whether they like to or not. Stripping, prostitution, getting involved in gang banging, getting involved in drug dealing. You know, there's a lot of social ills that exist because of economic hardship. And, you know, when you have someone that grows up in the ghetto, they might be obviously more likely to join a gang as opposed to someone that was raised in another environment. The color is not the issue. It's the environment. It's whether there are positive role models in their particular environment to help guide them, to help steer them towards the light, away from some sort of self-destructive behavior. And a great way to do that is to not compare our own personal understanding of our value with how much money we have in our pocket. And so this is something that's very, very key. Okay, Bill, go ahead and roll it. And if you'd like to join the conversation tonight, go ahead and call me at 503-288-4442.
She's a recent high school graduate. She's in school, struggling with what's going on in the economy. Just a normal kid, right? And
That's right.
What's going on right now with the economy, with you and your friends? What's happening?
There's been lots of struggles with just the recent economy. For example, not many jobs, not very many great jobs, not many great paying jobs. The jobs that were high paying are now being settled for people who will work for less.
when you graduated from high school, did you look for work, or were you looking for work in high school, and how was that like, or did you just go to college?